Good afternoon, Selamat Siang. Welcome to another Bali COVID-19 update. This is for Wednesday, September 8th, 2021. And the news everybody's been waiting for, what's happening with PPKM, the restrictions. So every Monday night now, I wait patiently at 8 o'clock to see who is going to deliver the news for the next week about extending restrictions, because that's what we all expect. Well, restrictions, of course, were extended for another week, and it was Pak Luhut who was giving the message, not the president this time, but Pak Luhut said the level in Jogja has gone from level 4 to level 3, but Bali is still level 4. Why is Bali still level 4? Well, according to Pak Luhut, it's because of the high rate of hospitalizations. Pak Luhut said that he talked to Bali's governor last night and assured him that the central government would be working with the Bali provincial government in order to bring down the number of hospitalizations. And Pak Luhut said he hopes that with extra work in the next week, Bali could go down to level 3 by next Monday night's announcement. That would be great news. He added that overall, the strategy is working well. Indicators of disease transmission continue to improve, and this is addition of new cases, number of patients in hospital, and patient mortality rate. And Pak Luhut cautioned, and this is an important thing, Pak Luhut cautioned that everybody should not be careless, needs to remain vigilant, and should not become overly enthusiastic, translated here as euphoria. He said, what we have achieved so far is certainly not a form of euphoria that should be celebrated. The slightest negligence that we do will eventually lead to an increase in cases in the next few weeks. And so he said, we could go down, hopefully we'll go down to level 3 next week, but we have to be cautious. And I've mentioned this in a number of segments here today. The numbers continue to go down, things are looking better and better, but we've got to stick with it. So I was going through the restrictions and all of the little things that we can and can't do under this, and I've noticed this. And so according to this, Jembrana Bangli, Karangasem, Badung, Gianyar, Klungkung, Tabanan, Bulang, and Denpasar City are going to have a trial implementation of a health protocol carried out in shopping malls and centers, trade centers, with the following conditions. Activities at shopping centers are permitted to operate 50% from 10 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night, with health protocols regulated by the Ministry of Trade and the Ministry of Health. And the Peduli Lindungi app will be needed in order to enter starting on September 14th. Okay, so that's still a week away. If anybody has been in a mall recently, leave a comment about what your experience was. Was there anybody checking anything? Did they ask to see any proof of vaccination? Are they scanning your hand or to check your temperature, asking you to wash your hands, anything? Because here, nothing. Well, we don't have any malls really here. We have Carrefour, which has the supermarket on the bottom, and then a bunch of stores up on the second floor, and the old Hardee's up on Jalan Nur Rai, and that's not much of a shopping center either. We're not really a big shopping center mall place. So if you've had any experiences, leave a comment below. Thanks. And just an add-on here to the restrictions, I just saw this morning, and this is from the governor. The governor said that activities at shopping malls, trade centers are open with the following conditions. Activities are allowed to operate 50% until 9 o'clock at night, and it's mandatory to use the Peduli Lindungi app to screen all employees and visitors in related shopping malls and trade centers. Visitors who are allowed to enter the shopping malls, trade centers, are visitors who have received a second dose of COVID-19 vaccinations. Now, I thought this was supposed to start on the 14th, which is what I said in this segment right before this. But it seems that it's happening here, and from some social media accounts on a couple of the Bali COVID Facebook pages, groups, people are already being asked to show their app on their phone to get into malls. And level 21, is that called level 21 or mall 21? I don't know. I haven't been to a mall in Bali in a long time, so I don't know, but I've heard that it's happening. And so, like I said before, if you know anything, if you've had an experience, make a comment, please, and let us know what's happening. Okay, and the numbers. 7-day average for new positive cases, 318. And the 7-day average for deaths, 21. And so we're down, going down. And all of Indonesia went up a little bit, 7,201. That's not good. We're still way below 10,000, but there was a jump there. Total individuals tested in Indonesia, 158,965 with a 4.53% positivity rate. Wow. And the 7-day average, 6.97. Okay, so we're looking good. And what about testing in Bali? Bali reported 38,186 individuals tested in the last 7 days, giving an achievement rate, wow, this was way up, 137.9%. Okay, and the 7-day positivity rate down to 6.30. So you remember the other day, it was much higher. And what about vaccinations? Are we getting close to 50 yet? First dose, 3,220,893, 72.1% of the population, and second dose, 2,055,011, and that gives us 46% of the population. Okay, we're getting close to 50% fully vaxxed. And 52,565 additional doses yesterday. Good news. Vaccines coming in and vaccinations ongoing. And what about the Bali numbers for yesterday? New cases, 295. Recoveries, 392. Deaths, 21. And active cases, 4,753. So our numbers are looking good. But as you already heard, we're still in level 4. So good positive news here on the number side. And well, are we going to go to level 3 next week? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. But let's hope that the numbers keep going down. Okay, vaccines and vaccinations. So what's going on there? Well, the Bingung COVID-19 task force has issued a statement for people that are confused about where to get their second dose. Because there's so many different brands now in Indonesia, people can be confused about where to get their second dose. For this reason, the coordinator for data and information for COVID-19 handling task force for Bingung, Pak Ketut, explained in detail the time intervals. So for Sinopharm, 21 days between the first and the second. Sinovac, 28 days. AstraZeneca, 12 weeks, that's what I had. Moderna, 28 days, and Pfizer, 21 days. So he said, for this reason, it's better to know what type of vaccine brand is obtained at dose 1 so we have no difficulty determining the right time for dose 2. And he noted that people who receive dose 1, but then are exposed to COVID-19 before they get dose 2, have to wait for 3 months. That's my son. Have to wait for 3 months after recovering before they get the second dose. And Pak Swarmawan appealed to the public to come as soon as possible to the nearest COVID-19 vaccination center to get a second dose. He said, we inform the schedule and location every day, so just come to the nearest health facility or vaccination provider. Okay, and so we want to get fully vaccinated up here in Bingung as quick as possible, so that if we get these tourists that come in, get some of them up here and get some of the businesses going. So part of Indonesia's strategy to bring down the numbers from that high just 2 months ago of 56,000 is to isolate patients when they get sick, not leave them at home so that they can infect other family members and you get these family clusters. So the Indonesian government has deployed ships as floating COVID-19 wards, and there are 5 ferries that are going to be used as isolation facilities for patients with COVID-19 symptoms, mild symptoms. And they have a combined total of more than 3,000 beds. The ferries are going to be dropped off in Jayapura, Sorong, Belawan, Makassar, and Bitung. And according to the coordinating minister for the economy, Erlangga Hartarto, the aim of these floating isolation facilities is to move self-isolating patients from their home, thus reducing their risk of family clusters. And he said this while he was in Jayapura, examining what was going on there. All the ships are owned by Pelni. Pelni is the state-run sea transport company, and we have a Pelni ship that passes by here every day. I think it's a Pelni ship. MV Tidar is the biggest of the 5 ships, and they have 929 beds, and it's off in Jayapura because Jayapura there's going to be a multi-sport event at the National Games that will take place later this month, and so they've got it there being ready in case they need it. And the ferry has 6 doctors, 12 nurses, a nutritionist, 2 pharmacists, 4 volunteers, and 4 medical analysts. So they are ready to go. And the ship arrived at the request of local authorities to stay there to service things until the conclusion of the National Games in mid-October. There's been a lot of talk about how we're going to go about dealing with the situation, whether we're going to go for the 0 COVID cases or whether we're going to go with the live with it. And so today I'm going to talk about 3 different cases in our region, in Asia, that have decided to go or are about to go with live it. And so first let's take a look at what's happening in Korea. 6 out of 10 Koreans, according to a new poll, support taking a different strategy. And this is the live with it strategy, which is what a lot of countries are calling it now, under which in Korea social distancing measures would be eased in preparation for starting a new normal. And so getting used to having COVID-19 as a permanent presence, as something endemic. Current policy in Korea focuses on bringing down the number of cases, and the new strategy would concentrate on the treatment of patients in critical condition and relax the social distancing measures, which are adversely affecting small businesses and, just about everything in Korea, like in many other countries. In Korea, there's been stringent antivirus measures, which include putting the number on private gatherings, as well as the number of people able to eat together in restaurants or travel or do a number of other things. The nighttime curfew on restaurants, the restricted number of people has brought, closure to a lot of businesses, and many are getting close to the state of bankruptcy. And they've been putting pressure on the government to roll back the restriction measures and begin to open up Korea. According to a coalition of self-employed individuals around the country, the debt of small businesses reached 66 trillion won, $56 billion, and 453,000 businesses have closed since COVID-19 pandemic began. And so they're threatening to start drive-in rallies across the country today to protest the 10 p.m. curfew on eateries and cafes and the lack of compensation from the government. And in response to these calls to roll back the measures, the health authorities said that they plan on looking at a new pandemic strategy shortly after Chuseok. Chuseok's a national holiday, often called the Korean Thanksgiving, and that starts next week. Is it next week? It's the 17th through the 23rd of September. And according to this article in the Korea Times, more than 70% of the country's population is expected to have had at least one dose of the vaccine by then. The Korean Disease Control and Prevention Agency said that in order to consider implementing the new system, over 80% of the population should be fully vaccinated, and that's 90% for the elderly. These medical experts advise that the country should gradually shift into the live with the virus strategy, following sufficient discussion and education among the public. According to respiratory disease specialists, social distancing measures should be gradually relaxed from the point when at least half the population is fully immunized. But she noted that the government should refrain from making premature moves, as the public may take it as a signal that everything has returned to pre-coronavirus normalcy. And this is a problem that every government around the world is dealing with. People jumping the gun and going, okay, it's over, we can do what we want. And I've heard this from people sending comments in here, people that I've talked to in the street, Indonesians and foreigners both, well, I've been vaccinated 2 times, I can't get it. I mentioned the other day, my youngest daughter has it, she's been vaccinated twice, she has it. My son was vaccinated once, he's gotten it. These breakthrough cases, there's more and more of them. Getting vaccinated twice does not mean you can't get COVID-19. It does not mean you can't spread it. It means that the symptoms should be less severe and death not likely and hospitalization not likely. So we've looked at Korea. What about another country? And so I talked about Korea and they're getting ready to switch to a strategy of living with coronavirus, and this Malaysia set to reopen Langkawi Island to tourists under a local travel bubble. So Malaysia is planning on opening the Langkawi Islands in order to rebuild their economy, despite the high number of cases that are in Malaysia. According to the Prime Minister, Langkawi will be open to locals under a travel bubble starting on September 16th. And other destinations will be allowed to open when their locality's vaccination rates reach 80%. This is part of Malaysia's plan to live with COVID. And they're using Thailand's tourism reopening plan based on their pilot project in Phuket. According to the health minister, Jamaluddin, COVID-19 is going to be treated as an endemic in Malaysia, and it's time for Malaysians to learn how to live with the virus. According to this article, at least 84% of the population has received one dose and 64% have been fully vaccinated, according to the health ministry. And based on projected data, the average vaccination rate among the adult population is expected to reach in all states 80% by the end of this month and 100% by the end of October. So we've got 2 Asian countries looking at moving to living with COVID-19. And what about this one? Living with COVID-19, Vietnam's biggest city proposes economic restart. So the coronavirus epicenter in Ho Chi Minh City is proposing to emerge from a strict lockdown and resume economic activities starting on September 15th as part of their shift from the zero COVID to living with COVID. This is according to a draft proposal. A draft proposal hasn't not been accepted yet. It was just last month that Ho Chi Minh City sent out troops to enforce the lockdown and prohibited residents from leaving their home due to a spiraling rate of death. Vietnam has a low rate of vaccination of fully vaccinated people. So Ho Chi Minh City is planning to promote economic recovery and move towards living with COVID-19. And part of this program will be to include low interest loans and tax cuts to businesses that have been affected by the pandemic, as the government will slowly shift into the living with COVID era. Vietnam's Prime Minister said on last Wednesday, that Vietnam could be facing a lengthy coronavirus battle and that they just cannot rely on lockdowns and quarantines indefinitely. They're going to have to get back to business. And so looks like that's the way that people are going. Nobody's having any luck getting rid of this completely. That includes China, which can be pretty heavy-handed in the way that they deal with the situation. Australia, which has just failed in getting rid of it. And New Zealand, I think New Zealand may still be going for the zero COVID strategy. I'm not sure. If you know, leave a comment. So we've looked at extending the PPKM restrictions, and we've looked at vaccines and vaccinations, and countries that are looking at different ways of dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. What's happening here in Bali? As I've said before, you can go to a lot of places in Bali and you wouldn't even notice that we're in a crisis, that there's any kind of restrictions here, except for the mask wearing. I watch YouTubers who are here, and there's a couple that I like, and there's a couple that I watch that I don't really like, but I would like to see what they're covering. And so I was watching one the other day in Canggu, and I mentioned Canggu disparagingly a lot of times because, well, a lot of people down there just not behaving properly. But the monkey family, they call themselves the monkeys, were down in Canggu on Sunday, and it was pretty empty compared to before. So they said, look, we think a lot of the influencers, the digital nomads have left. I don't know, is that true? Have you found that? So what they did see was that there were the people that were down there, they weren't wearing masks, and that includes the Indonesians. And what about this? So still closed due to PPKM, but Lakukan Beach is getting more and more visitors. And so we're all at level 4 here. But this last weekend on Sunday, Lakukan Beach was crowded. It was crowded with foreign and domestic tourists and traders. As you can see from photo, the head of the Bandung Civil Service Police Unit didn't deny that there were people down there crowding around, and he said that it's happened in the last few days, that they've been getting crowds down there. And he said, we've immediately followed up through supervision with relevant agencies, and we remind people not to crowd together and to wear masks. Okay, no comment. And he said that the pandemic is still ongoing, and so he expects the public to remain disciplined. Of course, if you're crowding around together, you're not really being disciplined, are you? And he added that he hopes that the villages and the Kelurahans will participate in overseeing the PPKM policy, not allowing violations, so that tourist objects, including beaches, can be officially opened soon in the near future. And according to this article, the Bandung Pol PP were invisible, and one of the traders said that he's been actively selling for 5 days, even though PPKM level 4 is still in existence. He did say that it's not crowded down at Lakukan Beach every day, but for the past 5 days, there have been a lot of people down there. And according to another Balinese resident quoted in the article, he said that the beach is still under the supervision of the traditional village, so the Banjar, and he said that during PPKM the beach was temporarily closed, but that despite the closure, people are showing up anyway. And so there you have part of the problem. There are rules, and the rules are not being necessarily enforced. But we may get out of this despite that. Let's hope so. Here is I love this story. I don't know. This one I like. Not in Jakarta. Ehang flying taxi is tried in Bali. Here's the reason. Okay. So the Ehang 216 flying taxi is put out by Prestige Image. And It was out in the Prestige Image Motorcars showroom in North Jakarta, and it's going to be tested next month, according to this article, in Bali. The plan is to have the trial at the Bali house, or I don't know what he's got here, of the chairman of the Indonesian Consultative Assembly, the MPR, and he's got, Pak Bambang has a place here in Bali, and they're going to test out the flying taxi there. This is wild. So Pak Rudi Salim, the president director of Prestige Image Motorcars, said that they're going to have to get the flying permits and other permits necessary to run the test, but that there's a special reason that they're doing the test in Bali, and it's because Bali is the main tourism center, or one of the main tourism centers in the world, and so it's a hope that the effect of having the trial of the flying taxi here will be greater, will be given more attention. And it's also because it will help Bali's tourism. How will it affect Bali's tourism? Well, let's say that we got some flying taxis that worked. I would go to a country to visit if they had flying taxis that I could get in and kind of shoot around from one place to the next. It would be so cool. You know, as crazy as this sounds, yes. But you know, this is also Bali. This is also Indonesia. If you take a look around in most places, you're going to see wires, telephone wires, electric wires. There's wires everywhere. So they're going to have to fly above the wires. You know, when I get my drone out flying, I've got to watch where I'm going, because there's wires everywhere here. So anyway, the chairman of the MPR is going to be in attendance during the trial, and they're hoping that the Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy, our old friend Pak Sandiaga Uno, Bali's main cheerleader, will be here as well. They've invited him, and so they're hoping that he's going to be there. And so what about the Ehang, this Ehang 216 flying taxi? Well, it has a maximum payload of 220 kilograms with a top speed of 130 kilometers per hour. It uses 100% electric power. It can be charged up to 220 volts or 380 volts in 1.5 hours of charging time. It has 16 propellers and 8 arms that can be folded, so I guess it's like my drone, right, with the folding arms. And so you can fold it up so it's easy to park. According to Pak Salim, it only takes up 5 square meters of land. So 5 square meters of land is a little smaller than this room. This room is about, I don't know, 38 square meters, I think. Oh, it's a lot smaller than this room. 5 square meters, I could put 5 of them in here. Is that right? Wow, cool. The Ehang 216 can cover a flight distance of 35 kilometers an hour, and in 21 minutes with a maximum payload. So we could go from, where's 35 kilometers from here? Well, okay, I could go from here, well, past my unfortunately departed friend Simon's house, the Bali, the art zoo. That was 22 kilometers from here. So I could go to Tejakula from here in 21 minutes. That's a lot faster than I can get there on my motorbike. Wow, cool. The height that it can reach, the altitude, is 3,000 meters. It can go up to 3,000 meters. I'm not sure I want to be up 3,000 meters though. I'd like to go in this, but I don't, not 3,000 meters. No. And it's 1.77 meters high and 5.61 meters wide. So if it's 5.6 meters wide, how's it going to go to 5 square meters? Okay, and it's claimed to be ideal for modern transportation for urban communities. And since there's no runway necessary for landing, it requires just a small amount of landing space. Flying taxis. Wow, cool. I want to be in one. Yeah, I want to take a flying taxi. Okay, let me know what you think about flying taxi. Would you go on a flying taxi? I would. Okay, well, let's see what happens. So, next month, I'm going to keep track of this. What about opening? Okay, we're still at level 4. But according to the head of the Bali Province Tourism Office, Iputu Astawa, and I've mentioned him many times before over the last 15, 16, 17 months that I've been doing these weekly and now twice weekly updates. He said that at the urging of the community, the government he has heard that the government is going to do a trial opening here. Now, he said he heard that. I don't know where he heard that. He didn't say that he heard it from the president or the governor or whoever, but I don't know. It's interesting, but, well, we'll have to see what happens. So he said, well, we're prepared. We've done everything. And so we've got domestic tourists here, and so we can deal with those. And so we're ready to do a trial with foreign tourists. So I can understand why he's in a hurry to get things opened up. But he did caution that it's just a trial and it should be a small trial. He said, don't do it on a large scale. He said that the Bali government's plan is to conduct a trial opening for international tourism because Bali has got all of the necessary preparations, which includes 100% vaccinations for tourism workers. The government has also implemented the CHSE, Cleanliness, Health, Safety, and Environment protocols, and super strict health protocols. I wouldn't call them super strict health protocols from what I've seen. So he said, it's the same. We're dealing with domestic tourists, so international tourists, no difference. He said when the international tourists come, they have to make sure that they're COVID-free and go through the hoops. Does that mean that they're going to have to be double vaccinated? That's the plan so far. I haven't heard that changed yet. So if you want to come here, you're going to need to be double vaccinated at this stage anyway. Who knows what's going to happen in the future. Astawa said when talking about the trial plan for opening, the important thing was that foreigners don't bring the virus into Bali, 1, and that they don't take the virus back home with them, 2. So that's another issue. What happens if people come here, tourists, because I've been talking about people bringing it in, but what happens if they come here and they get sick and they go home? You remember before we closed up, that was what was happening. People were coming here, they were getting sick, they were going back. Taiwan, Korea, Japan, Australia, all had cases traced back to the time that people were in Bali. If people show up here, if foreigners show up here, and they get sick and they go back home, that's gonna put a damper on things right away. So Astawa said in order to make sure that they don't get sick, they should be restricted to the green zones, the green areas. And so we haven't talked about the green areas in a long time. So that's where the focus was originally on vaccinating people. But now we're up at 45% completely vaxxed here, but people are getting sick still. Foreigners can come in here, they can go to a green zone, they can get sick anyway. This is one of the things, we're not going to become COVID-free. It doesn't look like this, and as I talked about in the segment on countries looking on living with COVID, it ain't going to happen. So what happens when people come here and they get sick and they take the virus back with them? That's something that authorities are going to have to think about. And then the question also is, who's coming? Now, we know that there's a lot of people who want to come, because if you look at social media, you'll see, when are we opening, when are we opening, when are we opening? And I get, we get comments here too. And so there are people that want to come. Are they going to come in mass numbers? Probably not, because as I've mentioned before, our two biggest countries were China and Australia, and we're not going to be seeing tourists from China and Australia in the near future. In the last segment, you heard that the head of Bali Tourism Agency said that he had heard that there are plans to open up. And here's a report on Pak Sandiaga Uno, our old friend, the Minister of Tourism. And what has he got to say? Sandiaga Uno to adopt Phuket sandbox scheme for Bali tourism reopening. And so he said the other day that the government is continuing to prepare for reopening Bali, even though the strictest levels are still in place here, level 4, but preparations are on way to open up. He said these preparations are being made in the green zone areas such as Nusa Dua, and according to him, tourism is going to open using the Phuket Sandbox plan. He said yesterday, learning from Phuket Sandbox, which focuses on significantly curbing local transmissions in Phuket, can later be applied to Bali. So the Phuket Sandbox is a scheme that's being used in Thailand to reopen island-based tourism by limiting the number of tourist arrivals, and it allows tourists that are fully vaccinated and coming in from low to moderate risk countries to come in without a quarantine. And so you had to stay in Phuket for a certain amount of time, and then after that you could leave and go anywhere else in Thailand. But, well, Thailand has been having some problems, so I don't know how that's working out right now. But apparently Pak Sandiaga Uno thinks that the Phuket Sandbox is a good idea, and as I said, Malaysia is looking at it for Langkawi as well. Pak Uno said that the government hasn't decided yet when Bali tourism is going to be reopened, and they're waiting for a better situation with COVID-19 and word from the president. So, is this a good sign? Well, it could be, but Pak Sandiaga Uno has said a lot of things that sound really positive, and then they haven't come to pass. Remember, we were going to open in June, and then July, and here we are in September, we're not open. So you just can't tell with this, and, well, the new variant's not here yet, and that's a story I'll be talking about on Sunday, the new variant. And just a little thing here is about to wrap up. I saw this on the local feed on Facebook from the provincial government. The deputy governor had a meeting with the head of the Bali Provincial Office's Ministry of Law and Human Rights, and we've talked about him many times. And the deputy governor said that he appreciated the steps being taken by the regional office of Law and Human Rights in keeping track of foreigners and, well, in controlling them and monitoring their residence permits and their actions as well, and taking what the deputy governor said, firm actions for foreigners who violate COVID-19 prevention health protocols. So, you are being watched, foreigners. Time for a wrap-up. And so what do we have? Well, kind of disappointing that we're at level 4, but the government explained why and held out the hope that next week we could go down to level 3. Vaccines are still arriving, vaccinations ongoing. Our positivity rate has dropped way down both nationally and locally, and so that's really good news. It seems like countries in Asia are going to go with the learn to live with it strategy for dealing with COVID-19. And I would guess that this is what Indonesia is going to do as well, learn to live with it. President Jokowi has made comments indicating that, and with the economy the way it is, especially here in Bali, I can't see us going on trying to get rid of the virus before we open up again for tourism. It just doesn't seem conceivable that we can go on and on and on. And is it even possible to get rid of the virus? I don't know. Doesn't seem like it right now. And so we're at 46% in terms of fully vaxxed, and we're working our way up. Is there going to be a trial opening sometime soon with a select group of people from a select country? I don't know. That's a possibility. B211 people, no word on you yet. If you're a B211 person and you're out, well, sorry, you're not in. And it could be a while before B211s are let in again. But, as I said, here's the crystal ball. I get a new one for Sunday. And the crystal ball says Going with December. I'm still going to go with December. I'm feeling a little more positive today. And for those of you that sent best wishes for my daughter who's got COVID-19, thank you. She's getting better. And so I'm happy about that. And this is a person who's been vaccinated. And so she's gotten it. And so she got sick. She wasn't terribly ill, fever and muscle pains and aches and no taste. Still doesn't have any taste, but she's getting better, so thank you. And that's it. This has been longer than I wanted. And the weather is, I don't know, this is the kind of weather that happens here as the rainy season is about to approach, because it's been really windy up here in Singaraja, right on the ocean where I live. Really, really windy and hot. And are we going to get early rainy season this year? I don't know. I hope not. I know we need the rain, but yeah, I like the sun. But I want to get my drone up, and so I hope the wind dies down sometime soon. Okay. Thanks for viewing. Stay safe. Follow protocols wherever you are. If you want to come to Bali, you're going to need to get vaccinated. Be kind to someone today, and see you next time.